You are about to take the institutional test of English as a foreign language. Your scores for this test will be provided only to the institution administering this test. Please remember that your scores cannot be reported officially to any other institution at a later time. Now we will begin the test of English as a foreign language. Break the seal and open your test book to the first page. Read the directions for Section 1 in your test book as you listen to the directions on this recording. Do not read ahead or turn the pages until you are told to do so. Section 1. Listening Comprehension. In this section of the test, you will have an opportunity to demonstrate your ability to understand conversations and talks in English. There are 3 parts to this section, with special directions for each part. Answer all the questions on the basis of what is stated or implied by the speakers in this test. Do not take notes or write in your test book at any time. Do not turn the pages until you are told to do so. Part A. Directions. In Part A, you will hear short conversations between 2 people. After each conversation, you will hear a question about the conversation. The conversations and questions will not be repeated. After you hear a question, read the 4 possible answers in your test book and choose the best answer. Then, on your answer sheet, find the number of the question and fill in the space that corresponds to the letter of the answer you have chosen. Here is an example. On the recording, you hear,
"I don't like this painting very much."
Neither do I.
"What does the man mean?" In your test book, you read, A. He doesn't like the painting either. B. He doesn't know how to paint. C. He doesn't have any paintings. D. He doesn't know what to do. You learn from the conversation that neither the man nor the woman likes the painting. The best answer to the question, "What does the man mean?" is A. He doesn't like the painting either. Therefore, the correct choice is A. Go on to the next page. Now we will begin Part A with the first conversation. Number 1.
On days like this, a swimming pool on campus would be perfect.
Yeah, it'd be a great way to escape this heat wave.
What does the woman imply? Number 2.
Here's an interesting statistic. According to a recent survey, university students spend more money on entertainment than on textbooks and other study materials.
Well, I could have told you that. Just look at the students at our university.
What does the man imply? Number 3.
I've wanted to talk to David for a long time. I really should give him a call, but I lost his number a while ago.
He's probably in the phone book. Why don't you just look it up?
What does the woman suggest the man do? Number 4.
Too bad you had to miss the hiking trip. I heard you were in bed all week with the flu.
Yeah, and I'm still not completely over it.
What does the woman mean? Number 5.
Mr. Anderson, my parents are coming to visit the dorms tomorrow, and I'd like them to bring my dog. Is it okay if I keep my dog in my room for an hour or two?
Now, you know the housing regulations clearly forbid that.
What does the man mean? Number 6.
Do you remember the new restaurant we were talking about the other day? I went there last night, and the food was excellent.
Really? 'Cause Debbie's been there too, and that's not what she said.
What does the man imply? Number 7.
Our study group's meeting today at 5. Does that pose a problem for you?
I'm afraid it does. I have a class then.
What can be inferred from the conversation? Number 8.
Hey, John, I just wanted to remind you that the article you're writing for the campus newspaper must be submitted by Friday.
No problem, but thanks for the reminder.
What does the man mean? Number 9.
Man, I really messed up on that test. I don't think I got one problem right.
That's what happens when you skip 2 weeks' worth of classes.
What does the woman imply? Number 10.
Professor Larson, I just wanted to apologize for missing your class this morning. But when there's that much snow, it's really hard for me to ride my bike to campus.
Didn't you hear? Morning classes were canceled because of the snowstorm.
What does the man imply? Number 11.
A florist told me that if I want to keep flowers looking fresh, I should cut a bit off the stems before putting them in water. I wonder if it really works.
Someone told me the same thing, and the bouquet I had did last longer. Anyway, it can't hurt, can it?
What does the woman imply? Number 12.
I've got a paper due tomorrow, and I'm only half done. But if I have the lights on all night in my room again, my roommate will hate me.
You don't like the library? You know the study area is open all night this week, right?
What does the man imply? Number 13.
It looks like it's going to rain today. Do you want me to come and pick you up from the station when you get back?
Thanks for asking, but I'm pretty sure Joe plans to be there then.
What does the man imply? Number 14.
Oh, doing these lab reports takes so much time. I can't believe that they're only worth 15% of our grade for the course.
Definitely. They should be more like 25 or 30%. You know, I have an appointment with Professor Curtis during her office hours this week. I think I'll bring it up with her then.
What will the man probably do? Number 15.
Are you feeling better about that summer job? You said it was really difficult work.
Yeah, now that I've learned the ropes, it's great. It was stressful at first because I didn't know what I was doing.
What does the woman mean? Number 16.
I wanted to join the chess club, but I think I'm too late. It says the sign-up period ended last week.
Well, you never know. They might still need players.
What does the man imply the woman should do? Number 17.
I like riding my bike to school, but the streets around here have so much traffic.
You know, they've just finished building that new bike path that goes from the campus all the way into town.
What does the woman imply? Number 18.
The library's closed already? It's only 5 o'clock.
I guess with so few students around in the summer, there isn't the demand.
What does the woman mean? Number 19.
Hey, want to go for a run after class?
Well, I really haven't had a chance to exercise for a couple of weeks because of midterm exams. You've been running every day. I'd never be able to keep up with you.
What does the man imply? Number 20.
Wow, this is a really fancy pen. I love how smoothly it writes. Where'd you get it?
My mom gave it to me as part of a graduation present, but I think you can get them down at that office supply store in the mall.
What does the woman assume? Go on to the next page. Number 21.
Have you seen my sociology journal? I left it right here on the table when I went to lunch. I hope the librarian didn't reshelve it.
Oh, Mark picked up some books I left for him on the table. Maybe it got mixed in with them?
What does the man mean? Number 22.
There's quite a crowd at the health center today. I'm surprised so many people are interested in getting a free blood pressure test.
Come to think of it, I haven't had mine checked in a while. Guess I'll go get in line.
What does the man mean? Number 23.
I can't believe how much time we've spent on this experiment. I need a break. And some food. Do you think the cafeteria's still open?
It closes at 7:30. If we hurry, we'll just make it.
What will the speakers probably do next? Number 24.
Have you talked to Elizabeth lately? She's trying to get a group of people together from our Spanish class for a trip to Mexico this summer.
Yeah, I gave her a tentative yes, assuming my financial aid gets renewed. Otherwise, I'll have to work.
What does the man mean? Number 25.
Thanks for saving a seat for me. Did I miss anything?
About half the lecture. Is your watch broken?
What does the woman imply? Number 26.
That's a great house you guys have. How were you able to get it? I thought it was one of the houses that's reserved for professors and their families, not students.
Yeah, it was until this year. We were really lucky.
What can be inferred about the house? Number 27.
I just found out my dentist retired last month. Do you have one you'd recommend?
Yeah, in fact, I have a checkup there next week. Say, I've even got his card with me if you want to wait a minute while I get it out.
What does the man mean? Number 28.
Professor Klein, I know our papers are due on Wednesday, but I was wondering if I could hand it in on Thursday morning.
Only if you're prepared to receive a lower grade.
What does the man mean? Number 29.
The new history professor is all right, but I have a hard time following her in class.
Well, if you only did the reading assignments, that's what helps me know what's going on.
What does the woman imply? Number 30.
Charles, I'm sorry I had to cancel my office hours yesterday, and I have an appointment now, but I can meet with you after class today if you want.
That sounds good. After today's class, I'm sure I'll have even more questions than I had yesterday.
What does the man imply? This is the end of Part A. Go on to the next page. Now read along as the directions for Part B are being read. Part B. Directions. In this part of the test, you will hear longer conversations. After each conversation, you will hear several questions. The conversations and questions will not be repeated. After you hear a question, read the 4 possible answers in your test book and choose the best answer. Then, on your answer sheet, find the number of the question and fill in the space that corresponds to the letter of the answer you have chosen. Remember, you are not allowed to take notes or write in your test book. Go on to the next page. Now we will begin Part B with the first conversation. Questions 31 through 34. Listen to a conversation between a professor and a student in an anthropology class.
So, what was the main issue addressed in the article about human childhood that I assigned? Susan?
Well, basically it was why does human childhood last so long?
Right. Why do children remain dependent on adults for so long, compared with other animals? 5 to 7 years longer than the offspring of chimpanzees. And what's the reason?
Well, the article, it gave theories, but I was kind of left wondering if there was an answer.
Right. We have only theories. One is that it's related to learning, that our childhood has to be longer because we have more to learn than chimpanzees do, that our brains need time to grow and accumulate the knowledge we need to survive. But what's a possible problem with that idea?
that children can learn complex tasks pretty quickly. They don't actually need the whole 15 or 18 years that childhood typically lasts.
Right. In hunting and gathering societies, even 5-year-old children can master tasks involved with fishing, and they're as good at some fishing tasks as adults are, suggesting that a long childhood isn't needed.
But in modern societies, with more complicated activities like things that involve modern technology, don't children need more time to master all that?
You think that hunting is less challenging or complicated than tasks that involve modern technology, like using a computer? That's a questionable assumption. It's difficult and dangerous to hunt and to gather food. Life is challenging wherever humans live, whatever their technology.
Number 31. What is the conversation mainly about? Number 32. With respect to what feature does the professor compare human children and young chimpanzees? Number 33. What does the student imply about the article that the professor assigned? Number 34. What assumption does the student make about hunting? Questions 35 through 38. Listen to part of a conversation in an art class.
Oil paints have certain characteristics that make them very attractive to artists. With oil paints, darker colors especially have a richness and vibrancy. With other types of paint, darker colors like black or dark brown sometimes look a bit gray or washed out. And it's also possible with oil paints to make very subtle changes with color, so you can have a seamless transition from, say, a light pink to a deep red. Yes, Tom?
So, would you say oil paints are better than water-based paints?
Water-based paints, they're perhaps better known as watercolor paints, do have some limitations. For example, they certainly look best when the colors aren't too dark or too light. And there are some things artists can do with oil paints that they can't do with watercolors. Some interesting techniques like impasto.
Impasto? What's impasto?
Well, impasto is a technique of layering oil paint to give the painting a great deal of texture. I mean, the layering is so thick that it gives the painting an almost sculptural level of depth.
Oh, like in that Rembrandt painting you pointed out when our class visited the museum? I noticed that he painted some jewelry that actually stuck out from the canvas.
Yes, though that painting really needs to be restored. Like many oil paintings, it was covered in a coat of varnish. The varnish was clear when it was first applied, but over time it made the painting appear dull and yellowish.
Number 35. What is the discussion mainly about? Number 36. According to the professor, what colors appear rich and vibrant with oil-based paints? Number 37. What quality does the impasto technique give a painting? Number 38. What is the problem with the Rembrandt painting in the local museum? This is the end of Part B. Go on to the next page. Now read along as the directions for Part C are being read. Part C. Directions. In this part of the test, you will hear several short talks. After each talk, you will hear some questions. The talks and the questions will not be repeated. After you hear a question, read the 4 possible answers in your test book and choose the best answer. Then, on your answer sheet, find the number of the question and fill in the space that corresponds to the letter of the answer you have chosen. Here is an example. On the recording you hear, "Listen to an instructor talk to his class about a television program."
I'd like to tell you about an interesting TV program that'll be shown this coming Thursday. It'll be on from 9 to 10 p.m. on Channel 4. It's part of a series called Mysteries of Human Biology. The subject of the program is the human brain, how it functions and how it can malfunction. Topics that will be covered are dreams, memory, and depression. These topics are illustrated with outstanding computer animation that makes the explanations easy to follow. Make an effort to see this show. Since we've been studying the nervous system in class, I know you'll find it very helpful.
Now listen to a sample question. What is the main purpose of the program? In your test book, you read, A. To demonstrate the latest use of computer graphics. B. To discuss the possibility of an economic depression. C. To explain the workings of the brain. D. To dramatize a famous mystery story. The best answer to the question, "What is the main purpose of the program?" is C. To explain the workings of the brain. Therefore, the correct choice is C. Now listen to another sample question. Why does the speaker recommend watching the program? In your test book, you read, A. It is required of all science majors. B. It will never be shown again. C. It can help viewers improve their memory skills. D. It will help with coursework. The best answer to the question, "Why does the speaker recommend watching the program?" is D. It will help with coursework. Therefore, the correct choice is D. Remember, you are not allowed to take notes or write in your test book. Go on to the next page. Now we will begin Part C with the first talk. Questions 39 through 42. Listen to part of a lecture in an astronomy class.
Okay, now let's talk about Pluto. As many of you know, Pluto used to be considered a planet, but now it's been reclassified. Because Pluto is so small and so far away, it's been very difficult to observe, even through our most powerful telescopes. So it was difficult for astronomers to find out whether or not it has an atmosphere. But when Pluto passed directly in front of a star in 1988, astronomers were finally able to answer this question. As Pluto passed in front of the star, the light from the star gradually dimmed. If Pluto had had no atmosphere, the light from the star would have disappeared very suddenly when Pluto passed in front of it. But you see, since Pluto has an atmosphere, the starlight dimmed gradually. This was evidence that Pluto did have an atmosphere. Since then, some astronomers have predicted that because Pluto is currently moving into the part of its orbit that is farthest from the Sun, its atmosphere may soon disappear by freezing and falling to the ground. It could just vanish. If that happens before scientists send a spacecraft to Pluto, we will lose the chance, at least for a long time, to gather valuable information about Pluto's atmosphere. So, should we hurry up and send a spacecraft out there? Some scientists say yes, but others think it would be wiser to wait until more sophisticated rockets are developed. Newer rockets would allow a spacecraft to reach Pluto much faster.
Number 39. What is the talk mainly about? Number 40. According to the talk, when did astronomers first get evidence that Pluto has an atmosphere? Number 41. Why do some scientists recommend sending a spacecraft to Pluto in the near future? Number 42. Why do some scientists not want to send a spacecraft to Pluto at the present time? Questions 43 through 47. Listen to part of a lecture in an American literature class.
In 1704, back in the days when the states of Massachusetts and New York were still British colonies, a woman named Sarah Kemble Knight set out alone on a journey from Boston to New York City. And the journal she kept on that trip is a landmark of sorts in early American literature. Knight was born into an affluent family and married a prosperous ship captain, but she wasn't content with a life of leisure. She oversaw a large part of her husband's business, and she also picked up considerable expertise in business law. And that's why she set off for New York. Her cousin had died there, and there was a lot of legal paperwork that her cousin's family needed help with. Even though such a trip, Boston to New York, was long and very difficult back then, and most definitely not the sort of journey a woman would normally undertake by herself in 18th century America. In her journal, Knight focuses primarily on the discomforts she has to endure. Bad roads, bad food, uncomfortable beds, rude people, and so on. But, and this is what I love about the journal, she describes them with such a sense of humor that you find yourself just continually chuckling as you turn the pages. And that was a radical departure from the serious style and subject matter of her contemporaries, who were more focused on moral instruction and spiritual introspection.
Number 43. What does the professor mainly discuss? Number 44. Why did Knight travel to New York? Number 45. According to the professor, what was unusual about Knight's trip? Number 46. According to the professor, what does Knight primarily focus on in her journal? Number 47. What does the professor like most about Knight's journal? Questions 48 through 50. Listen to part of a lecture in a biology class.
We know it takes about 1/10 of a second for the human brain to interpret signals from the eyes. So how does the brain compensate for this delay? For example, how can a professional baseball player catch a fast-moving ball that may be traveling several feet in 1/10 of a second? Well, researchers think that what happens is that when the brain perceives motion, it generates visual images of what it predicts will occur about 1/10 of a second into the future. And that helps us interact with objects in motion. To demonstrate this, some researchers set up a flashbulb, and they asked people to watch as an object passed in front of the bulb. At precisely the moment the object was directly in front of the bulb flashed. But the people watching said the object had already passed the bulb when it flashed. That's because their brains were already envisioning the object 1/10 of a second into the future when it would have already passed the bulb. Have you ever seen these geometrical illusions where you have lines on a piece of paper and you know the lines are stationary, but they appear to be moving? Well, researchers think that's because the lines are drawn in such a way that your brain thinks you are moving as you look at them, and it starts to project how the lines will appear to you in 1/10 of a second into the future.
Number 48. What aspect of the human brain is the talk mainly about? Number 49. What does the professor imply about catching a fast-moving ball? Number 50. The professor describes an experiment involving a flashbulb and a moving object. According to the professor, what did this experiment demonstrate about the brain? This is the end of Section 1, Listening Comprehension. Stop work on Section 1. This is a reminder. At the end of the test, the supervisor will collect all of the test books. You may not leave until all of the test books have been collected. End of recording.